Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from Brazil, Portuguese language English subs, released in the year 2017, directed by Vicente Amorim, and this film is called Motorrad. So Motorrad is about some young adults who are all friends who are going dirt bike riding in the remote countryside. So they're having fun, they're going all over the place, but then they come across this mysterious, beautiful woman. Now, it appears that she has some motorbike issues, and so the young brother of this group, the main character, he decides to help her, and he immediately gets this fascination with her. So she ends up coming along with them on the ride through the remote countryside, but then all of a sudden the peaceful and fun ride is going to be disrupted by a gang of merciless killers who are also on dirt bikes, who are chasing them for reasons unknown. But if these friends are to get out of this ordeal alive, they're going to have to not only try and outride their pursuers, but also find out what these pursuers are all about. So whether or not they can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Motorrad. You guys know that I'm a massive fan of Latin American cinema. Whenever I can, I like to support it, especially Latin American horror. Now Argentina, Chile, Colombia, they are very well known for their films. And Brazil, the largest country in South America, they are known for their movies, but for some reason they're just not on my radar. And so you do have some Brazilian horror films, but they aren't as well known as the other Latin American countries, for reasons that I'm not sure. But so as far as my collection is concerned, Brazil is not really a frequent sort of occurrence, but Motorrad is definitely a movie I had to check out. I really like the idea of it. You know, dirt bikes, I'm not a dirt bike rider, but it was something a little bit different. And so when I saw the trailer, I thought this is definitely something I need to check out. And after watching the film, I will say it's serviceable. It's definitely a movie worth watching, but it's definitely not a movie that's going to last in the memory. It just doesn't have enough quality behind it to make it a film that stands out for the rest. But if you haven't seen movies from this country, or if you see it late one night on television, then I definitely say it's worth the 90 minutes, but it's definitely not worth paying money to see, I don't think, is because it looks very good. The cinematography is excellent. It's almost black and white, so the colour is drained out, so it almost feels like you're watching a surreal nightmare. And so it's very, very competently made. I thought the acting was fairly decent, and I like the villains, is that you don't know what these villains are all about, and so what's going on. And so when you've got some pretty good action choreography as far as the chase scenes are concerned. There's some pretty horrible sets of violence that I thought was really good. It's exactly what you want from a horror movie. And I thought the soundtrack was fairly decent. So the motorbike sequences I thought were really well done. So it's a very, very competently made movie, and it's got a lot to like about it, but unfortunately it just doesn't have the depth. It's very shallow. Therefore, it's very forgettable. And so you have a story of, you know, this woman with this main character. I just didn't really care about them, to be honest. You don't know too much about them enough to care. I never felt as though they were real people. I always thought that this was a forced relationship in order to try and gain some sense of sympathy and some sense of connection, but you just can't do it. It's because the script doesn't allow it. This is a movie that relies on its action set pieces, and it does a very good job at relying and doing it and executing those set pieces, but unfortunately, if you don't have depth to the characters and depth to the story, the choreography and the set pieces of horror can only take you so far before you start to realise its shortcomings. And unfortunately, that is the biggest criticism of Motorrad, is that after a while it does become a little bit repetitive. I think it has good ideas, but as I said, because it hasn't got a lot of content, it struggles to get to the end. And so I was left looking at my watch towards the last quarter of the movie, which is ultimately the movie's biggest problem, is that it relies on everything you can see as opposed to everything that is supposed to absorb you to sustain that level of interest. And so that was a big disappointment. I thought the end of the film was a little bit forced again. I thought it was just there to shock an audience, and I just don't think it really had any purpose other than that. And so that's the whole problem with the film, is that it looks good, it's very well choreographed, it's very well made, but unfortunately the stuff that you can't see is lacking. And what you can't see is that absorbing quality into the characters, into their plight, and so it's just not a very scary film, but visually it is arresting. So I thought, alright, well, that's definitely its saving grace, but it's definitely not one of the best Latin American horror films out there. So it lacks scares because of the fact that it lacks the content that makes movies good, and what that content is character development. And so I just thought as though it was just a little bit too shallow for its own good. But having said that, if you come across it on TV one night, definitely there are worse ways to spend 85 to 90 minutes of your life, and so it's not a complete waste of time, but it's definitely not a movie that's going to last some moments after you finish watching it. So overall for Motorrad, going to give this one 2.5 stars. Not terrible, but then again, nothing great. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.